Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a quick session here. I was just going through the emails, and I had a question from a viewer on where is a good place to buy a computer. You may ask, well, actually, that's actually a very good question, in my opinion, because in today's day and age, there's not as many computer stores as there was 20, 30 years ago. Used to have like Circuit City, used to have like CompUSA, and then you had a lot of mom and pop establishments, like in a lot of local towns, and you don't have so much of that anymore. Basically, the only thing that you really have is good old crappy Wally World. You got Best Buy. If you're lucky in some states, you got Fry's Electronics. I've never actually been to a Fry's Electronics, but the marshal of this town, or the village marshal, was kind of telling me about all the stuff that Fry's has. It's about the size. The Fry's is about the size of a mega Walmart. So that's. But the nice thing about Fry's is, actually, I should just go to their website real quick and just kind of. And let's see. The thing that you have to realize about box stores is you get what you pay for. So, like, let's say we're going to start off with Walmart, for instance. So, you go to Walmart, you go in the electronic department, you look at their laptops and desktops, and you say, "Oh, I think I'm getting such a good price here." The $1 million thing that you have to look at is you get, like I said, you get what you pay for. And basically, a lot of the computers that they have on the sales floor, a lot of them are only like Celeron processors and Pentium processors. There's some AMD stuff, and there's some Intel, like Core i3s, Core i5s. Might be one or two i7s on the floor. But the thing that you have to realize is they basically what Walmart does is they call all the manufacturers and say, "Can you build this for this price?" And the manufacturer says, "Sure, we can make this computer for that price." And the thing is, a lot of computers that you buy at Walmart, they're very substandard. And a lot of people, they don't really care what they're buying. And the thing is, when you go, last time I was in Walmart, which is probably quite about a month or so ago, maybe, okay, not exactly a month, but like 2 weeks ago. And I don't actually see a lot of people buying computers there, which that's fine with me, because they don't have anything that's really worth anything, in my opinion. The only thing that they kind of stepped up was their gaming line. It's kind of interesting. But the thing that you have to remember is that don't make Walmart your first destination for computer shopping. Look around and see if you can find any mom and pop establishments. Because the problem with not only the problem with Walmart, but a lot of the guys that work there, they don't really care about what their passion is for the job that they're doing. So a lot of times they will kind of bluff off a bit on stuff. And it's kind of, I hate to say this, but it's kind of fun to go in there and toy with them. Like, are any of these computers have hyper-threading capabilities? And they're like, virtual reality? And I'm like, no, hyper-threading. They're like, what's hyper-threading? I've never heard of hyper-threading. And I'm like, do any of these Intel or AMD processors feature VT, and they're like virtual reality, and I'm like, no. I'm like, this is. I'm like, it's a technology that you can run guest operating systems, and they're like, guess what? And I'm like, nah, you're lost. I'm like, I don't say it to their face, but I walk away and I'm thinking, you're a lost cause. You're you're not ever gonna get this figured out. And a lot of the people at Walmart seem like they're kind of, well, how do you put it? A lot of them either seem like they're disgruntled or they're on drugs. Now there is a few exceptions to some employees at Walmart. Some employees are really good at what they do and they really have a passion for what they do. But then there's some that don't give a crap about what they do, and that's unfortunate. So we're gonna move on. So if you go to Best Buy, and yes, they have lots of different models you can look at. But the thing that you have to remember is everything that they have there, they also build, or you get what you pay for at that establishment. But the thing is, they have more to pick from. You can order certain things that they don't have in the store or on the sales floor. Computers are basically, desktops are actually kind of starting to fade away from the average user because a lot of people are even starting to get away from laptops and tablets. Everybody just uses their smartphones. That's true. I got a couple of smartphones here, but I don't really. I'd rather have an actual physical desktop tower in a laptop than to give it all up for a smartphone. Smartphones aren't cracked up to do everything that you would normally do with a regular computer. So another thing that I'm also gonna get at is like CompUSA years ago specialized in, like, actually some of those stores even built computers to your specification depending on what you wanted. I know that the Gateway store years ago that was actually a cool store for the time. It was just too bad that they all folded. But basically, Gateway got bought out by Acer. Because originally, so the brand Acer bought out a lot of the smaller computer brands like, well, Quantex. They pretty like Quantex years ago, or Quantex Microsystem rather. That was a small computer company. EMachine was a Walmart brand, and as they call it, the everlasting, forever going piece of junk. And I have to admit that I have a couple of EMachines sitting around here in the office, and actually they're not really that bad. They're not the cell. They don't have. I only got one here that's got a Celeron processor. The other one here has the AMD Athlon quad, or has an AMD quad core processor from 2012, and or it's the most highest rank of AMD processor you can get at the time. And actually, it's not too terribly slow. It's got a lot of zip to it for being an EMachine. But then again, it does have its quirks and its problems. But you can't really dwell on that because it's not like it was having problems brand new out of the box. So I think for 8 years, the computer pretty much, or the previous owner of it, got their money out of it quite well. So even though that some computers, manufacturers. Even Packard Bell was a big one back in the day, and they had spectacular computers. Not every one of them was perfect either. But the thing you also have to look at is if you're going to buy a custom build, you want to make sure that everything is compatible with one another. And make sure, like, especially like with RAM, you don't want to put like 10600s with 12800s because it will destroy the motherboard over time. I've seen it with even with manufactured laptop computers and desktop, where if you don't put the right pair in there, it slows down and it just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And the thing that you also have to keep in mind is you also have to look at your needs for what you're planning on doing with the computer. If you plan on just surfing the web and doing emails and Word documents and stuff, then like an i5 or an i3 would be fine. Or if you're an AMD person, like an A4, A6, or an A12 processor would be more than adequate. But if you're doing more advanced graphic or advanced stuff, then or something that requires a little more power, then you would want something like an i7 or an i9 processor if you're gaming. Or if you're an AMD person, again, you could use you just get the Ryzen like 5 or 7. Those are really good processors. And AMD actually has the advantage over Intel with graphics, and because even the Radeon graphics, the AMD graphics cards, I got a couple of them in a couple different computers that I own, and for only being 2 gig graphics cards, the video performance is not bad. The quality is good, and then even the NVIDIA graphics cards, I can't really complain either. It's a horse apiece between Intel and AMD. Intel has certain things that are spectacular, and AMD made certain products over the years that were spectacular. To sit and bash one over the other is not really fair because each one really succeeded everybody's expectations. So that's always good. And the other thing that you have to look at is with computer, if you're going to buy computers, how much do you plan on storing on there, and what kind of resources do you plan on doing? So usually most people typically go with like a terabyte hard drive. There's some that go with 2 terabytes, some that go with 4 terabytes. Then there's some that go with a 500 gig drive, some with a 320. And within recent years now, solid state technology started coming into the picture. So if you put a solid state drive in your computer, and since they're starting to phase out CD-ROM drives, what a person can do is, even like an older laptop, like an EliteBook, for instance, there's an adapter that you can put into the CD-ROM slot, and you can make a dual boot, or not dual boot, but you can make a dual hard drive laptop. So if you have like an 8460, for instance, or an 8470, or an 8560, or an 8570. I had a friend that was the same guy that was in Manitowoc doing the computers, and he was showing me the thing that he bought off Newegg, which was just it looked like a CD-ROM drive, but inside you got your 4 holes in the bottom, to attach your hard drive. So you could make like the main drive in a computer a solid state for the operating system, which that could be like 120 gig SSD just for the operating system. Then for the storage, you can put like a 2 or 4 terabyte drive in there, and that drive would be designated for your files, pictures, gaming stuff, music, videos, work projects, you name it. So that's in M2. Octane memory is starting to become a newer trend. And even back in 2012, there's evidence that a lot of those computers were actually prepared for, or starting to be prepared for the option of having Octane memory installed. So I wasn't the one that discovered it, but that was the pastor that I was working with. And I was astounded by that. I was thinking, wow. So a person could buy, you could even increase the memory or storage capacity of your computer. And a lot of times, most people, they don't even use CDs anymore or DVDs, because a lot of times you can just go to the manufacturer's website and download the drivers or download the software you need. And even like Word, you don't really need a disk anymore for Word or Excel. You just go to their website, punch your credit card in. Or if you don't use credit cards and you're a cash man only, like I am, and you can go to the retail store and buy the copy or the key code for the software, and then you just go online, download it, and then you punch the code in it, and you would get it. So basically, by this, theoretically, by your logical thinking of saying that I own it, you don't actually own the software. You're just paying to have the right to use it. So, also to clarify that. And the other thing that you also have to look at is, even though the new computers don't come with a CD drive anymore, but you can buy external DVD drives, USB based, and plug it into your computer. I got a couple of them here, and they work excellent for the newer computers. That if I got CD installations, because even a lot of people when they're watching TV and that, they don't. Everybody's getting rid of their VHS tapes. Everybody's getting rid of DVDs and Blu-ray, and they're all just accessing it from Netflix. And the thing I look at is, do you really want to throw all that stuff out just to keep up with the trend of streaming stuff online? You know how expensive it is if you had to stream every single show, every single movie, plus paying the $10 a month for Netflix, or 12 or 13 or whatever it is now. A lot of people, they don't think about when they're ditching all their old media just so they can stream it online. They don't think that it's going to cost them even more to do it then. So we're going to get back to the computer topic here. So we're going to basically state that even a lot of computer shops are starting to disappear. There were a few smaller chains of computer stores like Milwaukee PC that was here in Manitowoc County. They got one in Sheboygan. I think there's one in Appleton, Milwaukee. And that was big. I remember going in there. That was last time I was in one was about 2 years ago. Yeah, that was or 3 years ago rather. I'd go in there and just kind of glance at all their custom built computers and all the merchandise on the shelves, and actually even at that time it was the place was getting kind of run down, and it was just kind of shabby, and they're just their model or display models, the way they have them displayed were not as good. I didn't think it was the same as what it was when I was a lot younger. I'd go in there, and the way they had everything displayed, you could sit in there for hours testing each computer and having fun with it, and it didn't didn't have the same feeling as it did years ago. But unfortunately, a lot of brick and mortar establishments are going by the wayside. That's because everybody's buying stuff online. Thing is, when you're buying a computer net, you want to look at it in person. You kind of want to look it over and get a feel for what you're getting. It's like buying a car online. That's the biggest, stupidest thing that you could possibly do. It's like not test driving a car before buying it. Why would you do that? Why would you buy a car sight unseen? You might not even like it. I know if I'm car shopping, I'll test every model. Sometimes I'll even test them from different years on a lot to see what version I like better. But it's even like computers. I like to actually physically touch them and not actually operate them to get a feel for what I'm buying. Even a lot of times when I go to yard sales and I find computers there, I'll actually sit down and fool around with them and just kind of get a feel for it. 99% of the computers I find at yard sales I snatch up, because even though most of them aren't highly profitable, but they make spectacular vintage collection. And some of them I will sell over time. I just kind of got to go through all of them, and because there is a market for vintage computers, and eventually, my plan here is, I've been saying this for so long. No, I don't think I'm talking about vintage computers so much, but because I do have customers that do come and look for them, and it's disappointing when I come up short-handed of what they're looking for, and most people will think, well, you shouldn't care that much. They're just customers, but you got to think they're more than just customers. They're basically, I wouldn't quite go as far as colleagues, but you got to look at people more than just a customer or a number when they come to the door of your local establishments. So basically, we're going to kind of wrap this up pretty quick here. So what's nice about an establishment even like this was actually meant to be a computer shop. So if somebody's interested in a computer, what I like to do for a person when they come in is, it is true, I don't have actual business hours, but when they make an appointment and they tell me what they're looking for, I'll go through my inventory and get out what they're looking for, get it all set up, get it all out on the table and up and going, so that they can sit down with it for a while, play with it, mess around a little bit. They don't damage anything. They want to get a feel for what they're buying. They want to just kind of look it over, just kind of touch it all over, and just you know what I mean. And I can't blame them. And I tell customers, I'd rather sell you something that you're happy with than something that you're not happy with. And I'm like, if you're not happy with this model, I'll dig one out or find one that'll suit your needs. And usually, most people that buy computers, I don't really sell a lot of home computers or home style computers, as I call them, or consumer grade. A lot of the people that come in here, they're impressed with the business machines. They think they look very modest. They're not all chintzy looking. Because the thing that you got to remember is when you're buying consumer grade computers, a lot of them are always chintzy feeling. They don't have a feeling of quality. It's like this, for instance. This is a computer I scrapped out. Just feel how you can't really feel, but this is a consumer grade style palm rest and keyboard assembly off of a cheap Toshiba, and it just feels cheap. But like I said, you get what you pay for. But when you buy like an Elite Book, or you buy a Latitude, or you even buy... Now, not every consumer grade laptop is cheap and chintzy feeling, but some of them you gotta be careful what you buy. And I can tell you here, I don't really have any chintzy consumer grade computers that are on the floor. I don't have stuff that's really cheap and plasticky. I'm more or less sell business equipment. But what a consumer has to remember is they can buy business grade equipment and still do the same things that they can with a cheap consumer computer. It's just that a business machine is built more like a tank in some instances. And people have to remember that with a business machine, it's more of a lot of them are more no thrills. The only thing that a lot of them have is certain advantage of processors, like the Xeon. That's like basically like a workstation computer would have. And the thing that you also got to keep in account is how much memory you're going to use. I would definitely recommend getting minimum of 8 gigs at the minimum. I wouldn't go any lower than 8. 12 to 16 is pretty much just the new norm for 2020. 32 gig is a decent amount. I'm starting to see computers now that 64 is becoming a standard option. And you have some that have 128. But I don't usually work on many that have that amount of RAM in it. And then you have some that have 256 gigs. But that's only like the only computers I know of right now that have that are like the servers, workstations style computers. And then some of the Mac computers have that, but the thing that you also have to seriously think hard on is, are you really going to use 128 gigs of RAM or 64 gigs of RAM as an average home user? If you're doing a lot of video editing or game playing, or you're running an enterprise or something, yeah, you're probably going to need that. But for the average home user, 8 gigs is recommended, because actually not every home user uses Windows 10 either. There are some that are currently still using Windows 8. There's some that are still currently that are not even using Windows at all. There's some that are using Linux, some that are using Ubuntu, some are using Mint. And those operating systems are actually 5 times lighter than Windows 10. A lot of the major things with Windows 10 is you have like your virtual reality stuff, mobile broadband plan software, and then a lot of the multimedia and even the Xbox stuff that is on Windows. If you're not going to use or be linking up Xbox to your computer or anything like that, you don't need all that bloatware because that's what's slowing it down. I don't know, there's a lot of other hidden software and stuff that Microsoft put in there. That's kind of what's slowing it down. Because Windows 7, you never really had all that bloatware. Okay, when you get a new computer, a lot of times they have preload programs on there, games and goofy stuff like that. So, yeah, that's pretty typical. But when you use a retail copy of Windows instead of the factory image, the retail version is the only really get is the excruciatingly basic Microsoft programs like Windows Media Player, some of the basic like Internet Explorer. So that's also something to look at as well. And even here, when I'm doing computers for people, there's some that want a factory image on the computer. Now, when it comes to building a factory image, that's actually a lot harder than building a non-customary image. Because there's some people that are actually very picky and fussy that when they're looking at a computer, they're like, well, how come it doesn't have the HP logo in Windows? And how come it doesn't have the HP wallpaper? And I'm like, does it really matter that much? And they said, well, yeah, it kind of does. And I'm like, okay, we can put that on there. And then they're like, well, why doesn't the computer have the HP logo when Windows is loading? And I'm like, I suppose it could do that too. And they're like, oh, you're such a lifesaver. And then sometimes you got somebody that comes and they're wondering why you don't have the exact matching keyboard and mouse that would have came brand new with the computer. So the typical HP business machine, a lot of their keyboards are very universal, so I could take any keyboard with a Hewlett Packard and be able to mismatch and they wouldn't know a difference. Same with the mouse. But with Dell and Lenovo and everybody else in the consumer grades, it's a little more difficult to do that than the business machine. But I don't really care what people want as far as peripherals. If it satisfies them that much to have a factory image, then I'll go the extra 5 miles to make one. But it's not as easy as it actually sounds. Now, of course, if you buy one, if you have one that came with a computer, let's say you're doing one if you had one for 10, and you're doing one for Windows 10, you can build the image very close to what. But if you're doing it from on a Windows 7 era computer, it's a little more challenging than than if it were strictly a 10. But I hope that answered the viewer's question. I know that these streams aren't perfect, but the thing is, everybody has to realize is I don't run on a script. I don't have a video monitor up telling me what to say. I just go as I flow, as they call it. And what I mean by that is, why script it? Why have a bunch of cheesy music playing in the background? This is more real time than anything else. So I hope people enjoyed this. Everybody stay safe. God bless. Enjoy the rainy weather that we're currently experiencing here in Wisconsin. Fortunately, it's stopped right now. So we will see you later.